Okay, guys, the Nigerian oil sector is mad. We hear Nigerian oil sector is mad in a dispute between two major groups. First of all, the federal government, which supervises the industry, and the smugglers who steal billions of dollars in oil. Successive government administrators have tried to change this trend with little success. For example, we hear that in 2021, the federal government formed an inter-ministerial group that concluded all security services in the nation. The community-specific mandate was to recover crude oil and illegal processed petroleum product from the Niger Delta Creek. President Muhammadu Buhari then also signed the Petroleum Industrial Act, which seeks to reform the sector after 20 years. While the PIA is yielding significant returns, the challenges of crude oil theft persist still as early as 2024. Nigerian Auditor General announced that over 22,929 liters of petrol pumped into the Ibadan, Ilori, and Aba Enugu depot between June and July were interrupted. More so, from the statistics we gathered, we can also let you know that it's not good readings for Nigeria, that I can say, because it is also from the statistics we gathered, the economy sector has been mad by so many vices. So, guys, I want us to discuss extensively today. It's simple: oil theft, and it's definitely disadvantage to Nigeria as a whole. But looking at the statistics, as far back as 2016, over 101.05 crude oil barrels of crude oil was stolen to Nigeria. In 2017, it dropped to 26.46. 2018 to 53.28 million barrels. To 2019 to 42.25 million barrels. 2020, it jumped up to 8.47 million barrel. 2022, a little declined to 31.21 million barrel, and as of 2023, it went back up again over 300% to 65.7 million barrel. Before I get to Mr. Larry Oguego to tell us his own 2 cents on all these issues, let us now take a look at what's going down. Let's take a look at this interview of one of these major issue we had, speaking to a reporter on this oil theft issue. And this is what he had to say before I get to Mr. Larry.
I am not thief. I am a businessman.
You guys contribute largely to crude oil theft. And then the nation is losing so much of its wealth.
For me, I am not thief. What about those that are using vessels, mother vessels from the ocean, loading? I am just taking a little jerrycans. This is jerrycan. For whatever I am seeing there, those are saying this. They are using biro to thief. They are the people even contributing from those bunkering. This is not bunkering. We are supplying kerosene to the filling station. No filling station, no place they have kerosene. And the government does not matter. What about the North? They are doing their gold, doing this. What will they call those people? Okay, those people are not thief. Because when the poor man do, they say thief. But when the rich man do, they call embezzlement.
There is no job in this Nigeria. Niger Delta, we are suffering. Since we, makes an attempt to employ you, would you quit this job?
What kind of job did they want to employ me for first? This thing I'm doing is okay for me. It's okay to my people. The people that are giving job now, most of them now, till today, they've not paid them. University lecturers, they are on strike. They want to give me job. What kind of, is it the job you give me, then you not pay me?
We don't care whether we die. Like me, I don't care.
The whole of Nigeria, you cannot see kerosene to buy. We, the Niger Delta boys, are the one producing kerosene and supplying the filling station. If you give us the opportunity, we will do more. Then they say they want to stop bunkering. How? Are they giving us job?
I am not thief. I am.
Okay, guys, let us, of course, link up to Mr. Larry Oguego. I know you must have heard you must heard from the guys. You must heard the interview where these guys who involved themselves in oil bunkering speaking, and this is what they had to say. Mr. Larry, over to you.
Yeah. Good morning.
Good morning.
Arinze.
Good morning.
Good morning, Abuja. Good morning to everyone that's listening to us. When I saw that video, I was really perplexed.
Mm.
I was just really worried for the way this country is going. One of the young men said that they are not thieves. He actually said that they are helping the nation, as it were, that when there's scarcity of kerosene, they fill the gap and all that. And he mentioned the fact that there are the big thieves. He said that they steal in gallons, that there are the big thieves that come in with tankers, mother tankers, that's what we refer to them as. And that those ones are the thieves, that they are not thieves. And in any case, their position also is that this is their own. What of the gold in Zamfara and elsewhere? Who is calling them thieves? Who is policing them? Who is beaming the searchlight on them? The position of these young men actually brings to the surface a lot of issues on how this country is managed and how this country is run. But the most important thing is one of them said, and that is very touching. He said that he's ready to die. So what is it about? People saying that he could die. He's ready to die. Another comment that I found very interesting is if he could take a job and leave the oil bunkering, and he said something very, very embarrassing. He said, what kind of job are they going to give me? Jobs that they don't pay the workers, that the lecturers are on strike. The people they employ, they don't pay them for months. Is that the kind of jobs they are going to give me? So it tells a lot of stories about the perception of the ordinary Nigerian about Nigeria. So even if you say, we want to rehabilitate you, come, let's give you a job so that you'll stop taking risks and all that. They are already saying, if you're going to give me a job that you won't pay me at the end of the month, I might as well take that risk and do what I have to do to survive. So I think everybody that is a political player, especially members of the National Assembly, members of the River State and other Niger Delta House of Assembly, the president, the vice president, they should sit down and watch that video repeatedly so that they will understand how low we have sunk when it comes to this issue of not only oil theft, but how Nigerians perceive their nation. That video made me sad, very short, on the surface, very casual. But when you think about some issues they raised, you find out that they think the state of the nation is hopeless. They can't even get jobs. So they are helping themselves to the next job that is available to them, and that is to break pipelines and take little crude oil, refine the crude oil, and according to them, fill the gap that the formal sector cannot fill. That they cannot supply you kerosene, we are supplying you. They may not be able to supply you diesel, we are supplying you. It's a shame, it's a big shame, really big shame. When you look at the fact that the last administration had the president as petroleum minister for 8 years, and this administration will still have the same pattern. It is an indictment on those who sit atop that pyramid as petroleum ministers, and this kind of thing continues to happen.
Okay.
It's very sad and very shameful.
Okay, be part of the show. You can be part of this conversation. It's very simple. You can first of all listen to us anywhere in the world on our Radio Guardian app. Yes, download from the app on iOS store. You can also watch us live on our YouTube page on Voice of the People, 96.1 FM Abuja. Yes, just like, share, subscribe, and of course, press the notification bell so anytime we go live, you get to get the notification that we are on. Don't forget as well, you can be part of the show. It's 0808 312 8618, 0808 312 8618, or 0700 010 961 961, 0700 010 961 961. You can send us a WhatsApp message, WhatsApp voice note, put a call through to us, a WhatsApp call, or SMS. Either way, we get to give your voice. We get to give your voice on the show. Back to you, Mr. Larry. Is this a menace that we can't curb? Because it's been long a time we've been suffering from smuggling, theft, and it seems to be that the Commonwealth of the country seems to be stolen in its millions of dollars.
It's something we can curb, but the reason we are not able to do that is because there's a very huge black market economy around that industry. It's an industry now, and that industry is gradually becoming as big as the formal sector. What I mean is you're talking of billions of dollars worth of money is being generated annually from that industry. And we have left it for too long, so it has consolidated. What I mean by that is simple. There's an economy around it. People are benefiting, including very powerful Nigerians, very powerful foreigners. So they have created an ecosystem that encourages their illegal activity to thrive. And the truth is that the longer we leave it, the more entrenched it becomes. It's already very entrenched. I mean, it's an economy that a lot of Nigerians work hard to get into. Because once the person gets into that ecosystem, somehow the crumbs from the table in that ecosystem can make a Nigerian a billionaire in Naira in a few weeks, in a few months. So it has been left for too long. And the longer you leave it, the more difficult it becomes to get rid of it. It's like a tree. If you plant an Iroko tree, or any tree really, in the next few weeks after planting, you can remove it with one hand. Leave it for 5 years, you need a machete to remove it. Leave it for 30 years, you need all kinds of heavy-duty equipment to remove the same tree. So time and nurture, anything you give time and you feed becomes stronger. We have fed this menace for decades, and it has grown so powerful that there are cartels that have sophisticated weapons, sophisticated for drilling and tapping pipelines. They have their own surveillance system that may be more sophisticated than the surveillance system of the people who are supposed to stop them, because there is a huge economy around this, and this economy is a global economy because they sell the crude to companies in different parts of the world that are looking for deals. So we have left it for too long, but that doesn't mean that we cannot stop it. I've always said that the challenge we have in Nigeria is that the people who should lead the
big improvement in 2022, where in 2021 the losses on oil theft was 1.9 trillion naira. In 2023, it became 603.64 billion naira. But in 2023, it skyrocketed back to it's going to be on the burner every other day of the week and twice on Sunday. There is economic disappropriation. The people in the states where this oil are produced feel marginalized. Transparency deficiency. This crude oil in the states, security inadequacy, and this is where I want you to come in. We've heard stories from different quarters where we see different heads of security agency coming out to say this is what they are doing, this is what they have done to ensure that they curb this menace, you know. But if we are spending so much to secure this oil, and we seem to be having the same issues, then there must be something. There must be kind of sabotage in the security system.
You know, I just said that the people who are supposed to stop the menace of oil theft must be benefiting. That is why we cannot stop it. The political will to stop it is not there.
Okay.
Simple. I mean, we don't have to go to the moon and back to know what I just said. The political way to stop it is not there. We're in a country where we woke up one day and we decided to pay billions to people who protect the pipelines. After paying the billions, the same thing is happening, and we are still paying the billions. So doesn't that tell you that there is an economy that thrives around this whole fraud, and then people are benefiting and getting shares of the cake, and the cake is getting larger as we speak? One day that cake will be larger than the national cake itself. if it's not already larger, because we don't know how much crude oil we even get out of the oil wells. Nobody knows. We have refused to install systems that will inform Nigerians real time how much oil they are bringing out of the soil. I mean, if you go to Saudi Arabia, they know part time. I mean, part time means real time. If you ask them, what are you pumping now? They will tell you. What did you pump yesterday? They will tell you. What have you pumped in the past 1 hour? They will tell you. And the technology is not rocket science. Anybody can acquire it. The money we have wasted on the so-called security companies can actually help us install surveillance systems, and with political will, stop whoever wants to stop the oil industry. But that is on the part of fighting back. But there are also what they call non-kinetic approaches. That is the aspect of protecting pipeline surveillance systems and fighting those who may want to sabotage it, because you now know that they are, as soon as they touch the pipeline, you know. But then we also need to ask ourselves, why are we determined to impoverish the people from whose land we get the crude oil? That's another question the government must answer. If you go to other nations where they have this same crude oil, if you go to other places where they extract crude oil from their locality, they take care of the people. That is the rule of thumb. If you don't, this crude oil belongs to us. We are paying the biggest price for the extraction. In other words, as we go to the farm now, we cannot get any yield. If we want to go to fish, we can't fish because we have oil slicks on the surface of almost all our waterways. We are paying a huge price. We don't have schools, we don't have hospitals, we don't have anything. If you go to Niger Delta, any creek, any normal creek area, Niger Delta, you will shed tears. I've been to Bonny Island, and on the way to Bonny Island, I didn't believe that the human beings can do this to other human beings. That is, you come here, take that much money out of the environment and leave them in squalor, in total deprivation. It is unthinkable. So we have several factors that contribute to this situation.
Okay.
First of all, the major factor is the fact that there is so much greed in this country, and that greed is actually facilitated by corruption. It's easier for people to feed their greed because there's a lot of corruption and a lot of people are greedy. So all you have to do is to have the capacity to either share the corruption or make promises on how you will share the loot, and people will align with the greed. So that is one of the worst things that is happening to this nation now. People are not thinking of their needs, they're thinking of their greed. While the majority of people cannot meet their needs, the few are meeting their greed. So they have private jets that they don't deserve, they didn't buy, they have fancy cars that they don't drive, they have houses all over the world that they don't stay in. So these are the things that on one hand are driving the challenge. The privileged Nigerians, especially those who are politically exposed, are very corrupt, and they are feeding their greed from the oil industry to the detriment of the rest of Nigerians. And then, because of feeding their greed, they do not spare a thought for the people who are actually receiving the wrong end of the for this whole transaction, whose farms are damaged and ponds are polluted and all of that. So these guys will also want to assert themselves. And when you come to think of it, you also notice that there's a lot of corruption in the oil industry itself. If not, how do they know? For instance, when we had pipelines that used to distribute petroleum products across Nigeria, you notice that they actually tapped the pipelines when it was dry, and then they will position themselves to scoop petrol or diesel when they pump, which means that somebody was giving information to them that we are going to pump tomorrow. So position your tankers. They used to load tankers, that is 33,000 liter tankers in the forest, several tankers, and then they will load them from broken pipelines and then go and sell them to petrol stations. So there were several beneficiaries. The small thieves were benefiting. The big thieves were also benefiting. Those ones are still benefiting. The petroleum product dealers, the crooked petroleum product dealers are benefiting because they receive these products without proper documentation.
So what are we saying?
Oil contractors
Just
are
to
benefiting.
to come in here, who should we be blaming? Some people are blaming the government. Some are blaming the states where this oil are being produced. Some are blaming the occupants of the occupants of the land where this oil are being produced. Where should this blame be? Where should we push this blame to?
First of all, I don't like blame game, but who should you hold accountable for me?
Okay.
That's the way I choose to look at it. I don't just want to blame them. I want them to do what they ought to do. We should be looking at the federal government and the state governments. I will tell you why. The communities and the people, I don't see why we should hold them accountable. Why? Because it is the state and the federal government that controls the people and even influences how they behave.
Okay.
They are supposed to be under law. That is, we have federal laws, we have state laws. If there are laws to be enforced, it's the duty of the state and the federal governments to enforce the laws. So we cannot go and hold young people who are jobless and say you're holding them accountable. Or when they give a law enforcement officer a bribe, the person will take. When they ask the person to come and help them sell stolen crude, the person will join them. I don't think it makes sense to say, oh, we're going to hold them accountable. You hold the people who control the space accountable. The space is not on the moon. It's under the territory of the government, the state government, and it's also under the territory of the federal government. So I think we should understand that it is the duty of both the state government and federal government to ensure that these things don't happen. But unfortunately, they're benefiting. Some people have posited that even the politicians in certain states aggravated the situation by using some of these bad boys as thugs, providing them arms to contest elections with, and then after that they're not able to recover the arms, and these guys use some of those weapons to fight back when security agents occasionally, very occasionally, want to distract them from the business for vandalizing pipelines and all of that. So even the politicians somehow have encouraged the criminal system, not only in the creeks in the Niger Delta, but beyond the creeks. Politicians before now encourage thuggery. We have seen thugs openly disrupt elections, and the politicians will shield them from security agents arresting them. So it's something that happens. They buy weapons that the common criminal cannot afford, use those weapons to rig elections. Those weapons eventually also are used for kidnapping, for oil theft operations, and different people have different spaces they control. They call them territory they control. And of course, you know that even when some Nigerian officers were attacked and killed, in Delta State, this issue came up that it wasn't just about what we were told. Some people said that it was about who controlled what in the oil theft industry. So we need to just make it clear that the federal government and the state government are complicit in what is happening in the Niger Delta region. We need to also make it clear that nobody that can reason properly can justify paying so much money to private security companies, spending so much money at the same time on our regular security companies, and then losing so much money from the same problem that we are paying so much money to solve. It tells you that they are just sharing the money. Because if we are losing 2.3 trillion in a year, and you didn't add the money we paid to the private security company. We didn't add the money that we gave to the Navy, to the Air Force, we didn't add the cost of shooting and exploding the ships that were caught. We didn't add so many costs, and we have 2.3 trillion, which means that if you begin to add the other costs, you should be looking at maybe 4 trillion. So we're using the oil theft as an excuse to steal more from ourselves.
Okay, guys.
Which tells you that nobody's really looking at solving the problem. People are just positioning themselves to benefit from the problem.
Don't forget, be part of the show. It's coming out. We want to hear from you. See, this conversation can never be complete if we don't get to hear from you. We want to know your own take on this issue that has been deviled our society, that has been deviled our nation, and has also caused a wastage, for lack of words, of our natural Commonwealth of Nigeria. The numbers is 0808 312 8618, 0808 312 8618, or 0700 010 961. I'm not holding forth for the government, Mr. Larry, but the government has, according to them, they have done some things to ensure that these things can have been curbed. First of all, don't forget the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Measurement Regulation of 2023. This was to help metering the gaps in the upstream petroleum operation, support expedited meter rollout, and promote creation of independent and competitive meter for the upstream oil sector. Also to encourage private sector as well in the supply of metering services and regulating the measurement of petroleum produced. That's one thing they have done. As the government also claimed they have created a strategic or roadmap to reduce oil theft. The plan is aimed at pinpointing leaky locations and tracking incidents that led to theft. They've also awarded pipeline surveillance contract to private oil theft. For example, Tantita Security Limited was awarded initially a 3-year renewal of the pipeline protection contract, although this has remained controversial. We all know the issues around that one. So the government, in their own thoughts, they have done this and that. But do you think they have done enough to curb this menace?
It's not just a matter of whether they have done enough. It's a matter of the ones that they did. Has it been able to affect the menace significantly? The answer is no. It's not even about whether they have done enough. As far as I'm concerned, we have not seen the results of what they have done, which means they are just blowing hot air. They are still throwing money at the problem, and they are probably just throwing money into people's pockets or creating positions for people. See, the test of the pudding, they say, is in the eating. It is by their fruits that you shall know them. It is not by their names or by the grammar or by the appointment. I'm looking for results here. I'm tired of rhetorics. They told us, for instance, that our refinery was technically completed. I don't understand how we manufacture grammar. So how can something be technically completed and be unable to function?
Okay.
So which other level of completion are we looking at? So I'm tired of our government explaining away things. There are professors that rationalizing things. They assemble people, explain why they fail, rather than people who will give them solutions. It's unfortunate, but that's the kind of political leaders we have. They assemble people who are very good at manufacturing excuses and explaining things away. The people who will sit down and provide solutions. They avoid people who have integrity, who can look the problem in the face and say, no, I don't want to take your $10 million. Can we solve this problem? And they would also assemble people who will collect the $10 million and they share, equitably without, so we won't even know when they share it because they will share it peacefully. So that's the problem we have. I'm not interested in calculating how effective their solution is because for me, there's no solution until I see results. How I know that there is a solution or that they have provided is when I see results. And I have not seen any, and I have not seen any. How do we know that there's no result? Because they're giving us the figures, 2.3 trillion in 2023. Very soon we'll get the 2024 figures. So you see that there's no result. It is when we get results that we can now begin to talk about, okay, so we have moved from 2.3 trillion in losses to maybe 1 trillion. So we have done better. Or maybe we have moved from 2.3 trillion down to 500 billion, which is, it's mind-boggling that we're talking of 2.3 trillion. If we take 2.3 trillion and put it in any sector in Nigeria without too much corruption, education, health, infrastructure, anywhere, there'll be a significant change nationwide. And that's the money we are losing ostensibly to thieves. What kind of thieves? You can't say you're talking of oil industry thieves. This is an organized crime that is so organized that everybody who matters in the industry, even the people who should be stopping it, they have their hands in the till. Not everybody, but the corrupt persons who matter have their hands in the till. There are the few persons who don't want their hands in the till, run the risk of even being removed from their positions who have the political, who have the integrity and the technical capacity can solve. But because there's no political will to appoint such persons, these problems are being discussed every day. How do we get money that we used to do all kinds of bad things, including rigging elections? That is why we leave all these loopholes all over the place in Nigeria. We look at the mining sector. That's not what we are discussing. But one of them alluded to the mining sector. Who is policing the gold in Zamfara? Who is policing the solid minerals up north? Nobody. So do you think that all those foreign nationals that come and collect our solid minerals and drive convoys of trailers use high-level corruption? And the fact that the people who should stop these bad things are the same people who are either facilitating them or benefiting from them. And that is why we should be more careful about who we allow to lead us. Ultimately, I think our problem is about leadership and followership.
Okay, before we go down to our recommendation and our conclusion, some people have called that we follow suit, emulate China in, of course, considering punitive measures, including death penalties, to stamp out this menace from our society. Do you buy into that school of thought?
I'm not a proponent of death penalty on a general note, but I think we need stiffer measures. But let me make my position clear. If there is any crime that should have death penalty, is high-level corruption, and I'm sincere about it. High-level corruption is worse than murder, it's worse than armed robbery. Why do I say so? Because it is high-level corruption that very often drives people to the level of poverty that leads to armed robbery. It is high-level corruption that drives people to the level of emasculation, deprivation, that actually leads to some of the crimes that we say, oh, this is a very heinous crime. The truth is that it is high-level corruption that leads to system failure. So you have a Ministry of Gender Affairs that is supposed to provide for orphans and people who are born out of wedlock. There are some kids that are born by destitutes on the streets. We don't provide for them. When they grow up, they can kill anybody without remorse. If they kill somebody, you pick them up and say you are going to execute them for murder. When you created a system that refused to take care of them, when they were born on the streets, literally speaking, their mother delivered them at a market or bus stop. I mean, I was the person who was called on the phone when a mad woman delivered a set of twins. By the time we got there, one was dead. We took the other one to a motherless baby home. What if there was no motherless baby home? What if that mad woman just collected those babies and then fiercely protected their babies and raised the babies and they become monsters? So if there is any crime that should deserve death penalty, it is high-level corruption.
Okay.
That's the truth of the matter. Because they are the enablers of other serious crimes. Unfortunately, our National Assembly, every day we sit down to discuss frivolous matters, but they hardly discuss their own sins. They hardly sit down to say, how do we provide stiffer penalties for corruption? They don't do that because if you go and check, many of them have outstanding corruption cases. Nigeria is the only country where a significant percentage of our political leaders have either been in corruption-related controversies or are outrightly standing trial or have been indicted and investigated all over the place. So we run by people who don't have any shame, as in they are not concerned. Yeah, I mean, EFCC just took me to the cleaners and I come out and I say I'm running elections. That is, I'll be bold enough to say, oh, I still want to run. And we consider it normal, only in Nigeria. So I think we should have stiffer penalties. And if there's any offense that should carry the death penalty, I think it should be high-level corruption.
Okay, just to put you on the fence, what kind of penalty do you think would be appropriate for smugglers and oil theft? Oil theft perpetrators. What do you think would be the right punishment for them?
The first thing we must do is to make sure that if we catch anybody who perpetrates any crime against the state, any economic crime against the state, we must recover every single proceed of that crime. That's number one. You see, when you talk about punishment, I mean, you send the person to jail. There are some people who are actually willing to sacrifice themselves. Some people will tell you clearly that if I can do it and then you put me in jail and then my family will enjoy it for good, let it be that I'm the sacrificial lamb. The first thing should be recovery. That's what they do in Senate crimes. Recovery of the proceeds of crime. Even the EFCC will tell us about that. How well they do the recovery is left to your imagination. Then the second thing becomes the punishment. I don't like saying, oh, you give them 20 years or 30 years. punishment should depend on the nature of the crime, the role the person played. Let me also elaborate a little. When we want to punish people who steal our money, very often we sentence politicians to jail terms, and then we forget that there are people, contractors, civil servants. There are tens of people who facilitated the corruption, and we don't talk to them. If we want to really provide deterrence to corruption, every time we arrest a politician, we must arrest everybody who played a role along the line of making that corruption work. It is their duty to come and explain why they should subvert existing best practices to facilitate that corruption. But because we do not punish them, they walk away. So I'm just trying to even expand your question. Punishing the corrupt person doesn't mean isolating one politically exposed person and please them. That in this our country, there are directors and other regular civil servants that own properties worth hundreds of millions or billions. We were told how cash that was mind-boggling was found in the house of the late boss in Jambi in those days. So we have all these issues all over the place. It's not a matter of saying give them 10 years, give them 20 years. But if you ask me, it's high level, or at least we should be talking about think.
Okay.
Other people may have their opinions, but we shouldn't allow such persons to take a short break, have a condition in their cells in prison, enjoy a short break of 2 or 3 years and come out to disturb us again. No, we don't want that.
Okay, guy. Like I did say, personally, I would recommend that the government personally give proper distribution of the income made from this oil itself. It could help, curb the issues we're having. Also, personally, the security agencies who are in charge, the organization tasked with the security of these of the pipelines and even our borders should be also be held responsible. And maybe tightening, which is our biggest issue in Nigeria, I must say, anti-corruption, tightening our anti-corruption measure to ensure that there is no loopholes where people can manipulate, the oil sector to make gains, personal gains, something that is for the Commonwealth of Nigeria. What other recommendations would you want to give, to the federal government to ensure that this issue is solved once and for all?
The first recommendation is that we should, as a matter of urgency, install and monitor metering systems to know at every point in time how much oil is flowing. So at the wellheads where the oil come out of the ground, we should have metering systems. As the oil moves from the wellheads as they come out of the ground to other places, the metering system should keep track and automatically report to a central database. That is on that side of monitoring what we have. But the truth is that we have this assumption that our problem is that some miscreants go and break pipes and steal oil. There are some people who actually take the oil. That's after you've done all the metering. That is because we don't even have the metering. That they just declare wrong figures, manipulate the records, and still take the oil. Then there are some people who steal the proceeds even after you have done your metering properly, sold the oil properly, and they still take the money. There are some people who take crude oil to foreign nations, including Malta, to be refined, and they bring back the oil to Nigeria, and nobody tells us what happens to all the other derivatives of that refining. So what we need to do is to sit down, get some persons with a high level of integrity who are core professionals in the industry to sit down and provide solutions. For every industry, we know the incorruptible men and women who are there. And we know the incorruptible men and women who are also fearless, who have courage. So we need to assemble experts to sit down and look at all the leakages. For me, when we say crude oil theft, we're actually addressing a small part. Most of those illicit benefits are related to either crude oil theft or crude oil manipulation, that is, manipulation of the crude oil proceeds of the nation. It should go beyond outright theft. We should be looking at the manipulation of numbers, the manipulation of resources, the manipulation of derivatives and other products that we can use to make petrochemicals and so many other things. If we can harness the whole resources that should accrue to Nigeria from the crude oil refining process and all of that, Nigeria will be a very wealthy nation. The population notwithstanding, the landmass notwithstanding. That's the truth. But unfortunately, a large part of this money goes into private hands. That's why you see the kind of display of who pay as much as 10,000 naira per vote. And they're actually buying the votes in thousands. As long as we are willing to sell, they will buy. It was like an auction bid. So this party will say we are now paying 10. The other party will say, sell to us, we'll pay 11. So where do they get the money? These are not legitimate businessmen. These are people who got part of this 2.3 trillion naira you referred to. So when you have this kind of money, it's easy money, it's plenty of money. They use it to subvert the system. And when they buy the votes and also compromise electoral officers and all of that, security agents, you find out that they have this feeling that it is my money that bought me this position. So it is not a mandate of the people that I'm actually representing. I'm doing business. I bought this office. So in the next 4 years, part of what I should do is to consolidate my hold, for instance, on the illicit oil business and recover my expenditure and make profit and position myself to perpetuate myself rather in political office and also sponsor other persons. That is why you go to National Assembly, bad things are happening in this country. They don't say anything. We are complaining about 165 million SUVs. They don't say anything because the guys with deep pockets will indoctrinate the young boys who goes there on the platform of Labour Party, YPP, and all of that. They'll tell them, look, this is the way it works. Okay, you are fortunate to be here. You're here now. So this is the way it works. They indoctrinate them and they join the bad guys, and all of us pay the price. So there is need for the government to look at that aspect. But I think the other recommendations I want to make will sound hollow. They are lame because you cannot give what you don't have. One of the things we must begin to do in Nigeria is to, first of all, reform our electoral process so the proper leaders will emerge. These are fundamental steps. Because if we keep talking about do this to oil sector, do that to oil sector, the political will to do those things will not be there. They will not do them. So you start from first principle, you start from beginning. And then we need to also get Nigerians to understand that common good is better than individual good. A country where everybody is happy is better than a country where a few persons are happy, the rest are disgruntled. Because if they, like they told us, if the poor, they cannot sleep because they are hungry. The rich also cannot sleep because the poor are awake. They don't know that. Okay. So we have to get to that point where we sanitize our politics. We modernize and modify our leadership selection process. But then I cannot be telling the same people who obviously facilitate the fraudulent electoral processes to go and refine the electoral process. It is like pouring water in a bucket. But we won't stop talking. Maybe one day the people themselves will insist that we must get this change. The change we need is fundamental. It's not just about the oil. Let me also tickle you a little because that's your area. It is the same reason why they're stealing your crude oil that you didn't win one medal at the Olympics. The same reason.
Thank you.
Go and verify.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Larry Oguego, for your always top-notch analysis on issues concerning our country. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for the privilege, and I told you, tell Gesere to come out from under the weather. We are waiting.
She will do that. She has no choice. She'll be back very soon, obviously. Thank you very much again. Thank you for being part of the show.
Yeah, it's my pleasure, my privilege. And I hope that the people we are talking to and all of us are listening to the voice of the people. Do have a great day.
Thank you very much. Okay, guys, now because of our time, we'll switch our attention from politics to a bit of sports. And I hope I can do this in justice in the next 5 minutes to give you all the latest gist that has happened in the last 24 hours. I'll quickly start off, of course, from the NFF. We hear there will be no new coach for the Super Falcons from now to the end of the year because Justin Mindugu will take charge of the girls because there will be no international games. There will be no games from now to the end of the season. Also, for Colombia 2024, the 20 national team has been announced. Some of the foreign-based legion have joined the team, like Olamide Inola has joined up with the team. Comfort of Flourish from Edo Queens, not forgetting Chiamaka Osigwe, and of course, Flourish Sebastian from Stade Reims in France. The squad has been announced, and we now know the team that will be taking part in that game. There's a friendly game against Australia. That game will be on Friday at 10 a.m. Nigerian time. Quickly, we'll let you know that, of course, a certain Nigerian Super Falcons player have joined the Mexican league. She's joined Mexican Club American Femini. She has signed a 2 years contract here. She was part of the Nigerian team that played at the Olympic Games for Nigeria. The CAF Champions League, we heard that Benenoa FA are planning all that they will pull out their clubs from the CAF Interclub competition, if and only if there are two teams. Talking about Cotton Sports, and of course, it's the other team talking about Cotton Sport and JJFC do not make it out of the preliminary round. He said we'll give them out for 3 years so they can plan for a better future. Maybe Nigeria could take a cue from that one. Elmarek, and of course, Al Hilal will play in the Mauritanian League. Don't forget, the Sudanese League has been on hold due to some unrest, and they have, thanks to CAF allowed them to take part in the Mauritanian League. We also know that Steve Desires have declined a move to play in the MLS in the United States. He says he wants to stay back in Rangers in the Scottish Premier League, or maybe get a better league link in Europe. And for Aroko Dare, we hear that his link with Trabzonspor in the Turkish league is now back on after it stalled during a period of time. Now to the foreign scene quickly. Let's run. We hear that, of course, a certain Raheem Sterling, and of course, not forgetting Chilwell are not in the plan of the coach Enzo Maresca. We hear that deal, he told them they are not in his plan. They have been training separately without the team. And even Raheem Sterling, number 7 jersey, has been taken from him and been given to Pedro Neto. While Joao Felix, who was officially signed, has taken the number 14 jersey from a certain Chaloba. He'll be wearing that jersey next season. We told you already, Joao Felix has moved over to Chelsea for £45 million, while Conor Gallagher has moved over the other way for £33 million. Still talking Chelsea, a certain Armando Broja has signed for Ipswich Town on loan. Ipswich Town has got the obligation to buy him if and only if they stay up in the Premier League. To Aston Villa, started with Aston Villa, he'll be at the club until 2029. We hear Eden Ketia and Nottingham Forest, and Arsenal discussion. Eden Ketia could be heading to Nottingham Forest in the Premier League. We hear discussion is ongoing as we speak, and of course, Ide Gudogan, Ike Gudogan, could be returning to Manchester City. Discussion are ongoing. He'll be leaving Barcelona on a free transfer. Manuel Neuer officially has announced his retirement from international football after 124 games for the German national team, but he will be in Bayern Munich until 2025 because he just signed a new contract. He will no longer play for the national team. And of course, the investigation on Anthony and his sexual issues, sexual activities, the allegations, I will use that word, has been cleared by the Brazil police. They've closed the investigation with no indictment on Anthony, but we hear that there's still investigation going on by Manchester police in England. Then quickly, the next thing I say is happy after his ban was finally thrown away. And of course, in the US Open, lots of England, British players, beg your pardon, have made it through to the next round of the US Open as we continue to count down to the last Grand Slam of the year. Okay, this is how much I can take on the Sport Beats, guys. But don't worry, guys. The Sport Lounge will be back on in your speakers exactly 5 p.m. Just 1 hour of sport extravaganza from 5 to 6 p.m.